Philip Fisher's 1958 classic, Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits, it's really not just a book about investing. It's more like a manual for thinking. It gives us this timeless way to spot greatness, and maybe even harder, the discipline to actually hold on to it. In our world of algorithms and crazy short-term trading, Fisher's whole approach forces us to stop, look past the numbers, and ask one single, much deeper question. And that one question, which he actually got from the legendary journalist James Michaels, is really the engine of his entire philosophy. It just cuts right through all the noise, all the complacency, and it forces you to focus on the one thing that actually creates long-term value, a real, durable competitive advantage. And you know what? It's not just a question for CEOs. It's for anyone, really, anyone trying to build something that's meant to last. Okay, so to really get Fisher's method, you've got to understand the man himself, Philip Fisher. Well, he was not a team player in the corporate sense. His own son described him as this deeply solitary, incredibly intense, and just laser-focused guy. He wasn't looking for consensus. He was looking for conviction. And he built that conviction not in some stuffy boardroom, but by going out and doing his own relentless one-man investigation to find out what was really going on inside a business. There's this great story from his son, Kenneth Fisher. He said his dad would walk through town literally leaning forward, moving so fast that the local shopkeepers actually nicknamed him the Flash. And you have to realize, that wasn't just some funny physical quirk. It was a perfect picture of his mind, always leaning into the future, always impatient with how things were, and always moving forward. So you have this gunslinger mentality, right? Relying on his own judgment above everything else. And that's what shaped a philosophy that was, frankly, revolutionary for its time. So it makes you wonder, what kind of mind comes up with a framework so clear, so powerful, that it's still a cornerstone of investing wisdom more than 60 years later? Well, the answer really starts with his core technique, a method he famously called Scuttlebutt. And let's be clear, this is not your typical financial analysis. No, this is pure detective work. It's the art of getting out there and gathering all the whispers, the informal chats, the stuff that tells you the real story of a company. The story that you will never, ever find in a glossy annual report. See, Fisher's big idea was that to truly understand a business, you can't just sit and read about it. You have to get out and talk to the entire ecosystem that surrounds it. Scuttlebutt is all about piecing together this mosaic of different viewpoints. It's about finding out, are customers actually thrilled with the product? Are competitors genuinely worried about this company? Why did those former employees really leave? Was it a toxic culture or just a better offer somewhere else? That's the ground truth. And he had a whole system for this detective work. It wasn't random. He'd go talk to competitors to figure out a company's real strengths and, just as important, its weaknesses. Then he talked to customers and vendors to get a real sense of product quality. Former employees, they give you that unfiltered look at the company culture and whether management can be trusted. And then he'd even talk to researchers at universities or in government to uncover some hidden tech advantage. Every single conversation is a piece of the puzzle, and it's only when you put them all together that you see the real picture. Now, all of this investigative work, all of this scuttlebutt, it was all done to answer one massive question. Is this a truly great company? He actually boiled down his findings into his legendary 15 points, but we can really group them into three core pillars: the quality of the people, the durability of the product, and the strength of the profits. For Fisher, everything, and I mean everything, started with the people. He knew that a brilliant strategy is absolutely worthless if you don't have the right people to make it happen. So he'd ask, does the management have real integrity? Are they thinking about the long term or just trying to hit next quarter's numbers? And this is a big one. Are they actually developing the next generation of leaders inside the company, or is it just a one-man show that's going to fall apart the minute the founder leaves? Okay, next up is the product. And for Fisher, a great company isn't just selling something today. No, it's building a platform for tomorrow. And that means a relentless, serious commitment to R&D to create a pipeline of future products. It also means having a sales team that does more than just move boxes. They build deep, lasting relationships with their customers. For Fisher, growth had to be sustainable, not just a flash in the pan. And finally, we get to profits. But hold on, Fisher wasn't just looking for any old profits. He was hunting for companies with above-average profit margins, because to him, that was a huge signal of a strong competitive advantage. And even more important, he wanted to see a management team that was obsessed with making those margins even better through real innovation, not just by, cutting corners and firing people. They had to be willing to give up an easy win today for a much, much bigger payoff down the road. But here's the thing. Finding one of these great companies, that was only half the battle. The other half, the part that's maybe even harder, was having the discipline to just hold on. Fisher's whole philosophy was the complete opposite of the hyperactive trading we see today. It was all about buying right and then holding tight. And when I say tight, I mean for decades. His discipline was crystal clear. So when do you buy? Not when a stock is flying high and everyone's excited. No, the perfect time to get in is when a truly excellent company, one that checks all his 15 boxes, hits a rough patch that you know is temporary and solvable. That's when the rest of the market is panicking, and that's when the real long-term investor sees their chance. Okay, so when do you sell? The answer is almost never. You only sell if you realize you made a mistake in your analysis or if the company's fundamentals truly change for the worse. The day-to-day noise of the market, that was never, ever a reason to sell. What this all really comes down to is that he wasn't playing the stock market. He was investing in businesses. He deeply understood that the price you see on any given day is mostly just noise. It's just a reflection of fear and greed. The real job, the only job, is to focus on the actual value of the business, its long-term power to grow, and just ignore all the daily chatter. So, all this talk about a book from 1958, why is it maybe more relevant today than it's ever been? Because in a world where we are literally drowning in data and noise, Fisher's wisdom is the ultimate filter. And look, it's a totally fair question. How can ideas from the age of slide rules and telephone operators possibly apply to our world of AI and high-frequency trading? Well, the answer is simple. Fisher wasn't teaching tactics that have an expiration date. He was teaching a way of thinking that is absolutely timeless. This book endures because it's an anchor in the storm. It's a constant reminder to ignore the daily madness and focus on what actually drives value. It forces us to balance all the quantitative data with real qualitative truth, to understand the story behind the numbers. It gives us a framework for thinking about business that just works, period. And maybe most importantly, it teaches us how to be investigators of value, not just spectators of price. Okay, so let's try and boil this all down into a few powerful mental models you can start using right away. And a great place to start is with Fisher's 3 simple rules for what not to do. Okay, number 1, don't over-diversify. For Fisher, owning a ton of different stocks was basically admitting you don't really know what you own. His advice, put your money into just a few outstanding companies that you understand inside and out. Number 2, stay away from promotional companies. You know, those exciting, unproven startups. Leave them to the venture capitalists. And number 3, don't be afraid of a high price-to-earnings ratio. The greatest profits come from companies that grow so fast that today's expensive price looks like an absolute steal a few years from now. And here's the really cool part. This way of thinking goes way beyond the stock market. These core ideas are incredibly powerful tools for navigating your career, for making big decisions, and really for building anything of value in today's world. Just think about it. We are all bombarded every single day with endless information, endless opinions, endless data. What Fisher's Scuttlebutt Method really is, at its core, is a system for filtering the signal from all that noise. It's a way to go find the real sources, listen to different points of view, and then form your own solid conviction about what's actually happening. So how do you actually apply this in your life? Well, let's say you're considering a new job. Don't just read the company website. Do some scuttlebutt. Go talk to people who work there now, and even better, talk to people who used to work there to get the real story. In your own job, you should be asking that key Fisher question all the time. What are we doing that our competitors aren't doing yet? And for your own career, build it on a real defensible skill, your own durable competitive advantage, not just on the latest trendy buzzword. Become truly exceptional at something that has lasting value. In the end, what Fisher's work really is a masterclass in how to recognize true excellence and then commit to it for the long haul. It teaches us a powerful lesson. Once you find something or someone truly extraordinary, the hardest and most important job you have is to simply get out of the way and have the patience to let it grow.